And this is the 6th edition here on News Central Television. We're broadcasting live from our studio in Abuja, Nigeria. A warm welcome to you, our esteemed viewers. I'm Neota Igbe, and here are the top stories. The northern governors and traditional rulers convene emergency session in Kaduna to address rising insecurity. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa dismisses U.S. allegations of targeted killings of white citizens as blatant misinformation. And Bangladeshi court sentences UK lawmaker Tulip Siddiq in absentia to 2 years in prison for corruption in land deal. We've got the details in a moment. Nigeria's new ambassadorial list is drawing intense scrutiny, not just because of those on it, but the implication as well. The list shows evidence of what some have described as a growing pattern, the recycling of politically exposed individuals and former office holders in the diplomatic space. Opposition political parties are raising concerns about institutional independence and questions about the government's selection metrics. From recent ambassadorial cycles, the African Democratic Congress says the situation is worsening. The party cites the nomination of the former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, as evidence that can also further weaken public confidence in election management. The ADC spokesman, Bolaji Abdullahi, urged both Professor Yakubu and the Senate to reject their appointment, framing it as a move with measurable consequences for democratic trust. This is echoed by the People's Democratic Party. The PDP adds that several nominees face long-standing integrity concerns, reinforcing what it calls a transparency deficit in federal appointments. Prominent names on the non-career roster include former presidential aide Reno Mokri, former INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu, former governors Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi and Victor Okezie Ikpeazu, as well as several former ministers and ex-first ladies. The career nominees include Enebechi. More ambassadorial nominations are still expected in the weeks ahead. And now on to education. The federal government has proposed a 40% salary increase for university lecturers as the ASU unions get set to resume talks with the government team led by Yayali Ahmed. Sources in Abuja say the offer is part of fresh efforts to resolve long-standing issues around pay and working conditions in public universities. ASU's National Executive Council agreed on Sunday to return to the negotiation table. The branch leaders will now brief members across the country. This comes right after ASU's one-month ultimatum to the government expired on Saturday, sparking concerns within the academic sector. This is not the first time there's been proposals for salary increase for the lecturers. The question, however, remains whether this would make any difference, especially now that the vice president had been quoted saying the government alone cannot fund tertiary education in the country.
In the 2025 budget, education received a total of 3.5 trillion naira, amounting to 7.3% of the national budget, an increase from the previous year. What makes that is our universities are very supported to develop organized funding programs. Grants are being introduced to strengthen medical education and contemporary rural education have been expanded. Nigeria cannot aside to compete with the local state. While these universities remain underfunded, its teachers undertake and its classrooms ill-equipped.
That was Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima. But major strike actions and reasons and outcomes between the ASU and the federal government did not just begin. Between 2015 and 2025, in 2017, the industrial action lasted 1 month. The primary reason being a continued inertia on the implementation of the 2009 federal government ASU agreement components, and the resolution was it was suspended, leading to subsequent arguments. But again in 2018, another industrial action that lasted 3 months, primary reason being, again, the persistence of unresolved issues from the 2009 agreement. Resolution, another suspension, leading to further negotiations and an MOA, that's a memorandum of agreement between the federal government and ASU. Again, another strike action in 2020, shut down for 9 months. Primary reason, dual disagreement over university funding committees on and issue resolution another suspension in December 2020 after a long memorandum of action was signed again. Another one in 2022, which lasted for 8 months. Primary reason, direct failure by the federal government to satisfactorily address all issues raised in the 2020 memorandum of action. And what was the resolution? It was called up and suspended in October 2022. The federal government enforced the controversial no work, no pay policy again in this period. So the question still remains, would this increase, 40% increase, bring a resolution to this matter once and for all? Well, that's a question on the minds of Nigerians out there. Moving on now, let's talk about some rewards that come with service rendered. In the year 2025, Sarah's Africa CSR and Sustainability Awards honored organizations across the continent for outstanding contributions to social responsibility and environmental excellence. And News Central's won the best award for sustainability reporting. Placidia Igbajo had these details.
We hereby give the utmost recognition to organizations.
Stakeholders from across Africa converged for the 2025 Saras Awards, widely regarded as the continent's leading platform celebrating excellence in corporate social responsibility and sustainability. Now in its 18th year, the awards continue to spotlight organizations whose initiatives are driving measurable social impact. This edition saw strong participation from both private and public institutions.
And the winner is News Central.
For News Central Television, it was a proud moment as the station clinched the award for Best in Sustainability Reporting, a recognition of its commitment to telling stories that inspire accountability and positive change across Africa.
This moment is not just another ceremony, it is the celebration of a journey.
Organizers say the goal extends beyond celebration, urging African organizations to embed sustainability into daily operations and align with global environmental, social, and governance standards.
When we talk about sustainability from this context and going into the future, is that simply, right, we have to think about how we consume today in a way that guarantees that our children and their children and their children's children will have access to the same resources. That's what sustainability is. Tell us at 20, we are coming with innovation that people have never imagined. To celebrate that milestone and to make people understand we've not just come to be, we've come to stay. And whether I, as founder or CEO, is here next year or after or not, we've created something that with processes and all of that to continue to help us to bring out the very best, promote excellence, so that people can have standards to aspire to.
With renewed calls for stronger partnerships, deeper innovation, and more community-centered solutions, the 2025 Saras Awards ended with a shared commitment to advancing sustainable development across the continent.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations, News Central, and to all the winners out there. But let's switch now and go on to talk about security, the security competition in Nigeria. It's taken a major turn, this time led by the president himself. President Bola Tinubu has asked the National Assembly to fast-track legal changes that would allow states to set up their own police forces. It's the strongest sign yet that the federal government sees the need to move beyond a centralized system that's struggling to tackle widespread violence. Now, even though it could reshape the country's entire security setup, analysts are cautioning that issues like funding and control could become major challenges. Now, the push for state police is not new. The Senate has attempted similar reforms multiple times. In 2018, the Senate pledged to revisit calls for state police. No law passed. In 2020, the bill passed its second reading, never completed constitutional amendment. In 2025, the current attempt under the constitutional review, most serious effort, some will say, yet. would that make any difference? I'm now being joined by a consultant on communication and strategy to the Senate President, Dr. Ken Okoliwo, joins us in the studio now to talk to us about this. The efforts by the National Assembly and the Senate in particular to help curb the insecurity in the country. How would you say it's going?
Yeah, but you see, what we are experiencing is it's been repeated. How would I put it now? Will I say maybe since after the Trump's tweet, the attacks have accelerated. But if you look at it holistically speaking, it's something that has gone on for a whole while now. And I did a piece, interestingly, I didn't even know you were going to have me as your guest. I did a piece where I was recounting how we're on a dinner table and Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, was speaking to my principal and was very passionate about the fact that he needed to put a bill through that will require a security summit. Not the usual security summit, but the ones that have just been completed at the zonal hearings. And the fact of the matter here is they want to know what is really wrong. The traditional rulers have to come in. The student union leaders that's local then. The women leaders have to come in. Because if you look at it, kidnapping is not what we had in 25 years ago in Nigeria. It was very alien to our country. And no, kidnapping is so prevalent now. And that's why you can see that today they have said we must have the death sentence passed on kidnapping to act as a deterrent. We must take some very strong approaches. We can't use the carrot approach anymore. It has to be one that has to be decisive.
But would you say
to send a strong message?
Is the Senate taking decisive action in terms
it's not only the Senate. You're looking at the National Assembly as a whole. Yes.
Okay. Is there decisive action being taken to end this seeming trend of? I mean, the state police conversation has been going on for a while.
Well, the state police conversation was part of the joint.
But the
they had a joint sitting of the Constitutional Review Committee of both the Senate and the House of Rep.
Yes.
And I was privileged to be there, being a consultant to the Senate President. And one of the things that they set up a security committee, apart from the zonal meetings that have gone on at least for the Senate, which has been concluded in each of the zones and the reports are going to be brought together. They set up a committee for security specifically. So what we're looking at is by the time you hold a centralized security summit, they will harness all the reports. The Senate President said that much. They'll harness all the reports, and this time around they'll give you legal backing. And even if it is local vigilante, because if we keep saying state policing, we keep going through the bottlenecks, we keep going through the whole. What we are facing now is something we need to attack headlong. If you empower the local vigilantes and you know who that is amongst the local vigilantes, you can even decide to arm them. I'm just giving that example.
Okay.
You can even arm them and they will take care of their localities. Because security is also local, just like we're saying, you have to go to the grassroots to be able to tackle it. When you see strangers in your community, you know who the strangers are. You just can't keep saying people are in your bushes, where you know the footpaths. You know how to get into those areas that you know people are being encamped. And that's where they take their kidnapping victims to. So you see, it is something that everybody will need to take into consideration, because what we face as a country, it's not the actual genocide per se as is said, because a whole lot of Christians and a whole lot of Muslims are being killed, but Christians are more, no doubt about it. But you can't say that we are oblivious of the fact that one citizen's life matters a lot.
So now that we know that, I mean, we all know that 2018, 2019, 2020, this conversation has gone, and now in 2025, with the president calling for a quick review of the laws so that states that can go ahead and set up their
because not all states can afford the infrastructure.
Now, that's why the president said the states that can or are willing to. Do you think this will speed up the work?
I believe the National Assembly, yes, is going to. Even without that, I told you that way back May 2025, Senator Jimoh Ibrahim moved that motion on the floor. You can fact check it.
Of course we know.
I was very passionate about it and said this thing had to be taken headlong. And that was way before Ted Cruz even raised the issue. Actually designated as a country of concern, of a particular concern. So I think it's not something that anybody will have to handle with kid gloves at this time. You know, the sentiments before was like, if you look at local government elections, any party that is in power, if you're APC, you're PDP, down the line, the whole chairmanship structure to the local government councillors are all from that party. So they also think that the governors are going to abuse the state police. I know, whether you like it or not, that's been one thing that's made it very difficult for people to support the state police. Where you have the state police, and at the same time you have the federal police overseeing the state police, but the state police will actually have the actual power to enforce laws and enforce security in the areas that they are domiciled.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ken Okolubo is a consultant on communication and strategy to the Senate President. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you for having me.
And
you have a lovely studio.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and you happen to be the first guest.
Wow. So I hope I'll be given an award in the future.
You will get an award. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
6th edition will be back in a moment. We'll be looking at issues around security. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the 6th edition. In case you're just joining us, so here's a recap of the top stories. Northern governors and traditional rulers convene an emergency session in Kaduna to address escalating banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, and mass displacement. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa dismisses U.S. allegations of targeted killings of white citizens. Community-based law enforcement designed to improve intelligence gathering, strengthen rapid response, and close the gap created by centralized policing. But the threat is no longer just physical. Criminal networks are increasing, weaponizing disinformation, using fake news and manipulated videos on social media to create panic, inflame ethnic tensions, and weaken public trust in security infrastructure. Security experts warn that without a trusted flow of accurate information, coordinated security operations become harder and communities become more vulnerable. For any model of state police to succeed, Nigeria must build independent oversight structures, enforce mandatory misconduct reporting, and ensure clear lines of accountability so the reform does not repeat past institutional failures. Now, joining me in the studio is Daniel Boala. He's a special advisor to the President on policy communication. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Boala.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
So, the policy of security, the federal government's policy, right now it looks as if the president, I mean, we just had a consultant to the Senate president here talking to us about what the Senate is doing as regards state policing or security. But the president made an appeal to the National Assembly, so to speak, not a directive, to say review the laws quickly.
Correct.
But this is not the first time that has happened, where the National Assembly has gone ahead to do this and they failed to get an assent to the law. So what would be the difference this time?
The difference is that this is an idea whose time has come. You know, before now, I know there were skirmishes of insecurity that occasioned the call for state police, but the situation at the time was not that bad enough to call for these state police. But with the recent development, I believe that it is clear to everyone, as you can see, everyday engagement on social media, the yearning for a lasting solution to the problems that is facing us right in the face. So I believe now, and as you can see, most lawmakers that I have heard are calling for that. Governors in states are calling for them. Civil populates are calling for that. Non-governmental organizations are saying the time has come for it. And when you find the executive and the legislative branch of government both agreeing on that point, then you know it's an idea whose time has come.
The matter of when the law is even passed, or using information that is even passed on,
right.
The use of information, when you say citizens give information, is the executive using this information as it should be?
Yes.
Or do we have saboteurs in the midst of the executive that are not helping at all?
So depending on the quality of the information and the nature of the information. So for example, if the information is processed as intelligence, definitely it will go to the relevant agencies of government. And if it falls within the purview of the intelligence platform, then you know they are not about exposure, they are not about public announcement, they are also not about public spectacle on how they manage that information. It will be processed in many ways. In fact, it can lead to arrest without the Nigerian people knowing. And then if it is information that is purely based on political consideration and it goes to the executive branch of government, then of course, you know, there will be this constant updating of the masses about how that information is being treated. If it's an information that relates to the legislative branch of government, then it goes to the National Assembly, and then you see how they process it. So how information is used, it depends largely on not just the nature of the information, but also the quality and the sensitivity of that information.
So, well, but when information comes out from the citizens, because right now the government has even reached out to the citizens to give information.
Right.
When information comes out from the citizens, whether intelligence or politically based, the use of that information will determine whether the citizens will bring forth more information or not. Would you
100%.
agree then that the government or the executive hasn't used the citizens' information as it could use it to encourage the citizens to bring forth more information?
We have always been using information accurately. If you have seen, that's why I say depending on the nature of the information.
So, but I asked that question to go here. How is it then that we have misinformation if you say you've been using information accurately or correctly?
So misinformation usually comes from two different sectors. One from the opponent, because their job is to demarcate the government, although they are not managing it well because they don't even know the thin line between national security and all that. But then the other disinformation is participation of citizens in the politics and the governance of the country. So for example, if you look at the social media, otherwise called the new media, has become the gift and the curse. The gift in the sense that it has connected everybody into one realm. The curse is that it has also created a lot of headaches. It has caused the destruction of people and cities because the information is conveyed wrongly or falsely. That's why you have misinformation or disinformation. When it is misinformation, there is a bit of sympathy because it then means that the person does not have either the capacity or has obtained the information wrongly. But when it is disinformation, then it is done deliberately with the intent that people be misled. If you have seen the new media and the manipulation of algorithm, you know that social media can even be used to change the regime. You see the Arab Spring. It was on social media. So we learned lately that the algorithm can be manipulated, that a conversation in a certain demographic can be vitriolic, can be full of hate in order to inflame passion. That is why the citizens of Nigeria who are very engaging when it comes to communication and information, majority of them have come to that point where they share information that are not verified. They share information that you know right on the face value it is wrong. Have you not seen lately the videos of incidents that occurred 10 years ago and somebody pushing it and is saying it's happening right now? We have seen cases of people that fuel pipeline explosion. Somebody put it and they say the bandit just killed people now.
But is that not a gap created by the government and its infrastructure not communicating to the people what ought to be? Information that ought to go out.
No, so I can tell you that because this is my industry, it's my lane when it comes to communication. In the last 2 months, I can tell you I hardly have slept for more than 3 hours. All over the world, local and international. In fact, from tomorrow, I'll also commence the media tour in the southern Nigeria. We're going to Lagos. I'm going to be there till Saturday. What are we doing? Communicating the programs of government, explaining to the people some of the things the government is doing, and then answering questions on what the people demand from government. This is what, since I have been appointed, I've been doing. So, and then I have many of my colleagues who are equally doing the same. You then spread the tentacles or the cobwebs or the webs, and then you see that even ministers and agency heads of the federation are engaged. So what other information are you talking about? Now, when we talk of disinformation is not because there is no information.
Mr. Boala, as we need to go.
Right.
But quickly, when you talk about information again going out, I come back again to the fact that government is not communicating as and when government should. For instance, a story came out yesterday about naming those who are sponsors of insurgency. And it turns out that information came from last year.
No, so that's where you miss it. I was on air yesterday on TVC, and I gave that information and that the government is going to send. Then people now went back to previous information related to that, and they found it out. So there are two different things.
No, those names that were mentioned yesterday, when did they come out? This year or last year?
No, I never mentioned name has been released. So I said very soon with the measures that the president is taking and the government is taking, adopting a this zero tolerance, that very soon, when investigations are conducted, we will know terrorists and those who finance them. I never mentioned any list, any people. So people went back to the past and then brought out names.
So when are we going to get the names?
Could it be these people?
When will we get the names?
When
Any timeline?
No, when something has to do with investigation. Have you ever seen any investigation that has a timeline? Have you ever seen that?
Daniel Bwala, any timeline?
There can never be timeline on. There can never be timeline on an ongoing investigation, but there would always be timeline on a concluded investigation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Daniel Bwala is a special advisor to the President on Communication and Policy. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you as always. I'm good to see you. I'm good to see this place.
Thank you. We hope to see you again soon.
Anytime.
Well, and we're moving on now. Northern governors and traditional rulers have gathered for an urgent meeting at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna to address rising insecurity in the region, chaired by Gombe State Governor Mohammed Inuwa Yahaya and co-chaired by the Sultan of Sokoto Muhammad Saad Abubakar III. The crucial closed-door session is dedicated to finding solutions for the surge in banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, and farmer-herder clashes. After meeting in September, the northern leaders are meeting just days after their southern counterparts met at Ikperu, Ogun State, over escalating insecurity and announced measures to fight it. These intensifying conflicts have tragically claimed hundreds of lives and displaced thousands of people throughout the region in recent months. Insecurity in the northern part of the country has heightened in the last couple of weeks, resulting to abductions in schools and places of worship. Our correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu was at that event and should be joining us. Yes, he is here right now. Emmanuel, tell us, what is the situation right now? Any resolution from this meeting?
Yes. Very significant resolutions. Of course, not ignoring and not re-emphasizing the words of the chairman of the Governors Forum, Northern Governors Forum, Governor Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe State. And of course, his co-chair on the traditional side, the Sultan of Sokoto, the governor made it clear that there is an existential threat, that the North is facing an existential threat, and that if nothing is done so urgently, the North will have to lose all its glory. Then, of course, his counterpart, his co-chair, that's the Sultan of Sokoto, made it clear that governors are the reason why governors were having this issue in northern Nigeria, because governors don't listen to advices, don't listen to critics. He was bold enough to tell the 19 governors to also always listen to critics. And so at the end of the meeting, they were very straightforward. State policing. They want state policing as urgent as possible, and they also want a single theater command created for the North, because here in the North, what I would like to know, in northern Nigeria, in northern Nigeria is Hausa language. And then when you bring in, what they're saying is when you bring in an elitist kind of security outfit, it's going to be a problem because of language barrier and all of that. You can imagine an Igbo man being in charge of a theater command in Zamfara and Katsina. I mean, that's prickish. So they want a centralized theater command that is local. Right. And they made it clear they want state policing. Not, being controlled by anybody except the governors.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Bagudu, and thank you. Do stay safe and giving us those updates from that end of the country. Thank you. Moving on now to Kogi State, where Governor Usman Ododo has announced automatic employment for the best graduating student from each faculty at the Confluent University of Science and Technology, OSARA. The incident was unveiled during the university's maiden convocation, where the governor also highlighted key upgrades and acknowledged federal support following the abduction of COSTECH students earlier this year. Mono Balagbobo reports.
COSTECH's maiden convocation in Osara produced 266 graduates, but the defining moment was Governor Usman Ododo's announcement of automatic jobs for top graduates in every faculty.
I am pleased to grant automatic employment to the best graduating students in each faculty. Your hard work deserves recognition, and we are proud of you.
The governor also outlined ongoing infrastructure development at the university and thanked President Bola Tinubu for swift intervention during the abduction incident earlier in the year.
Mr. President, when some of our students were abducted, you stood solidly with us You mobilize the entire security architecture of the nation to ensure their safe return.
The institution's founder and former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello praised Ododo for sustaining the vision behind the establishment of 3 state universities.
He's not only consolidating and building on the foundation, but where even the foundation is faulty, he is strengthening and reinforcing and even expanding the foundation so that the superstructure that he is already building on top will be celebrated.
Vice Chancellor Professor Abdurrahman Salawu highlighted COSTEC's growth with 56 NUC-approved programs across 8 faculties and 1 college serving over 5,000 students.
COSTEC today, a flourishing academic community. Through missionary leadership, strategic program development, and government support, Kogi State grown into a robust academic institution boasting 56 NUC-approved programs.
The convocation also celebrated academic excellence with top graduates receiving cash awards. COSTEC says the first convocation marks a solid foundation for its identity and a long-term commitment to excellence in Kogi State. In Kogi for News Central, Morno Balagbubu.
Let's go back a bit to security. This year marks 70 years since the Nigeria Police Force first enlisted women. In 1955, 20 courageous women joined the force, taking on limited non-operational duties, but blazing the path of future generations. Today, women serve in all areas of the force: operational, administrative, investigative, and leadership roles. This year is 70 years since that first enlistment. In 1955, again, 20 courageous women joined the force, but down the line, they serve in all capacities, in all areas and leadership roles, as the case will be. According to statistics, women now make up about 12% of the total police population, roughly 44,600 officers. From the first 20 women in 1955 to over 44,000 today, female officers have spent 7 decades transforming the Nigeria Police Force, shaping a more inclusive, responsive, and modern law enforcement system. Despite being a minority, the female officers play a critical role in community policing, gender-sensitive operations, and leadership, gradually reshaping the face of law enforcement in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Idong, was there, and he'll be giving us an update on that situation. But for now, I'm being joined by Assistant Inspector General of Police Aishatu Abubakar Baju, Gender Advisor to the Inspector General of Police, and Shanta Knowles, who will be joining us later on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations on 70 years of being in the force.
Thank you.
I know you're not 70 years in the force.
I'm not 70 years, but others were there before us.
So what was it like? First 20, now over 44,000. If you look back down memory lane or down history lane, what qualities would you say have come through that line to now?
Thank you very much. For 70 years of women in policing, it's been a very beautiful journey, and I'm also fortunate to be here today, to be part of those celebrating the 70 years of women in policing. And for us at this particular moment to have an Inspector General of Police, we call him he for she Inspector General of Police. For the very first time in 70 years, he's celebrating the contribution of women in policing, the courage, our resilience, and what we do. So I really want to take this opportunity to celebrate my IG, to celebrate our he for she IG. Well, from 1955, as you said earlier, it started from a very humble beginning. 22 courageous women were enlisted into the Nigerian police force with limited roles. The role of just being telephone girls, tea girls, and just to control traffic for children going to school. And then at that time, you can't go even beyond the rank of Chief Superintendent of Police. We've come to the 21st century policewoman, where we have become operational, we occupy a sensitive position. We reach a rank of DIGs, AIGs in the Nigerian police force.
Maybe one day we'll get an IG.
It's possible because the police, the way the current Inspector General of Police now is setting the police, giving and making it an equal opportunity institution. That's the beauty of it.
Okay, so this matter of, or allegations of discrimination against women, do they still exist in the police force?
You know, I must say, of course, Nigeria is a patriarchal society, but then if you look at the Police Acts and regulation, in those days, there were some sections of the Police Act and regulation that were discriminatory. Oh, you cannot marry after this, you have to take permission to do. There are so many things that you couldn't do. Now, with the he or she Inspector General of Police, he is engendering every sector of the police. And one of the things we are doing now is reviewing the police regulation, which the Act has been, and the Police Act itself, and expunging all those sections of the Police Act of regulation that are discriminatory.
Okay. You think that what the IG is doing would make any difference for the younger generation? Because I know that there are some in the police colleges, there are some in the training schools who are hoping that they will hopefully rise up to be AIG someday.
And beyond.
And beyond. You think this will make any difference?
Absolutely. Because you see, when you provide the enabling environment for everybody to thrive, equal opportunity without hindrance, and specifically I want to come up, the IG has also come with a policy specifically focusing on women mentorship program, so that we try as much as possible to mentor them, for those of us that are in this position, to be able to train them. Like now they've just started leadership development program for women and so many other programs, just to make sure. Because now what the IG is doing is to ensure that the Nigerian police is gender responsive in all its operations, both within and outside the force. Within means looking at issues based on from the perspective of a man and from the perspective of the woman police. What is it that I need? It's about equity, right? What I might need is not what the man would need. So that is what the IG is looking at. And also outside, to ensure that police respond, because we know that the community we serve are made up of men, women, boys, and girls.
Indeed.
So what are those needs? How do we police this diverse community?
Thank you so much. Aishatu Abubakar Baju is an assistant. MNI is an Assistant Inspector General of Police and Gender Advisor to the Inspector General of Police. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And congratulations on this 17th.
Thank you so much for having me.
The conversation is not done. We'll still continue the conversation.
It's not done. I'm going to see you on the 4th and 5th of this month.
Would I be wearing a police uniform?
No, you don't have to wear. And tomorrow, let me tell you, tomorrow is going to be a special day. It is going to be all-female special work day. Okay. Don't miss that.
We will not miss it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
And indeed, still talking to the police, security matters are some that really... We're going to be joined in a bit by Shanta Knowles, Commissioner of Police from the Bahamas, to look at this matter of women in policing and how that's working out on the in Nigeria, on the African continent, and indeed across the world. All in a bid to ensure that our societies are better secured.
70 years of women in police, inspiring the future!
It has been a journey that mirrors Nigeria's wider struggle for gender inclusion since the first batch of women were enlisted as clerical officers, telephone operators, and tea girls in 1955. Today, they serve in nearly every department: patrol units, detective squads, tactical teams, and international missions.
70 years of carrying cop and being like a receiver of call to holding arms, becoming CPs and all the rest of that is interesting. And it's really very instructive to know that women are actually breaking the frontier, becoming DIG, secretary to the police. That is really massive.
What is happening now in Nigeria is remarkable, especially within the force, where women are consciously beginning to be integrated as part of key leaders within the Nigerian police force. And I think if we
AIG today, thanks to him. And I thank him for how he has been able to elevate most women to good posts, posts of authority.
But even with the progress, representation remains low, as data estimate that women make up only about 12% of personnel in the force, with a very few holding leadership positions.
70 years in policing should be commensurate with the type of representation women get in leadership in policing. If you look at the strata and the statistics that we have today, you find out that we have just about two or three of them that are commissioners of police that are manning commands.
At 70, many officers here say this isn't just a celebration, but a reminder that policing becomes better and stronger when women are fully involved. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
First the photos.
And now we're being joined by a commissioner of police in the Royal Police the commissioner of the Royal Police of the Bahamas, which is the equivalent of the Inspector General of Police here in Nigeria. Shanton Knowles, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here with you tonight.
Good. How many days have you been in Nigeria? Is this your first time?
This is my first time. It's beautiful.
In Nigeria or the African country?
It's the first time in Africa.
Wow. You're coming back, right?
I certainly will. There is so much more to explore, and so I want to take every opportunity to enjoy the motherland and explore the motherland.
Indeed.
So eventually I will be back.
Okay, but let's look at this. 70 years for the first, 70 years since the first females joined the police in Nigeria. What's it like in the Bahamas?
Well, we're almost at that same number. We are now at 61. Our females, the first 6 females in the Bahamas joined in the 23rd of November, 1964. And so we've celebrated our 61st anniversary. And so we feel the same pride that the women here in Nigeria feel of giving service to the community.
Do you experience any, you being the head of the police force there, do you experience any discriminations against gender discriminations?
Unfortunately, I have not. In my 34 years of policing, I have not experienced any gender discrimination. I don't think our country discriminates. Even if we do, it's not openly. Everyone is on a fair playing field. Women are given the very same opportunities as men to compete in a male-dominated environment, and certainly we are excelling. It is a pleasure for me to be named or appointed the first female commissioner of police in our organization. And by the way, we are 185 years of service to our Bahamian people. So it took us 61 years to get to this position. And I do believe that it's all the work of God, for God's work to be seen through me to inspire other young people to achieve greatness.
Okay, so here in Nigeria, of course, you're the IG in the Bahamas.
Yes.
We have IG here in Nigeria.
I like that. I like that.
Okay, but let's, as we narrow down or wind down here, what kind of collaborations would there be between Nigeria, the police force in the Bahamas, and the police force here in Nigeria? Especially in the face of Nigeria beginning to look at the possibility of state policing, decentralizing the police force.
I do believe that this is first of all, it's a beautiful experience for me to see how large the police force is and how well managed it is. I do believe that we will continue to collaborate, especially on training. There are many opportunities for us to communicate with Nigeria, collaborate with Nigeria, so that our officers could be exposed to even more high-level training. And so that is one thing I certainly expect to take back to the Bahamas.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chantal Knowles. Thank you for coming in.
It is a pleasure to be here tonight.
Chantal Knowles is the female version of the Inspector General of Nigeria, but she's a commissioner in the Royal Police of the Bahamas. Once again, thank you. And we do hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Nigeria.
I certainly will. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll take a moment, and when we come back, Guinea-Bissau's junta forms a new government. We'll bring you details of that and other stories. Don't go away. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed allegations by the United States that his government is killing white citizens, describing the claims as blatant misinformation. The accusations stem from repeated statements by the U.S. President Donald Trump, who has revived false claims of a so-called white genocide targeting Afrikaners, the minority population of European descent in South Africa. Tensions escalated after the U.S. boycotted last weekend's G20 summit in Johannesburg, followed by President Trump's announcement that South Africa would not be invited to the next G20 meeting scheduled to hold at a family-owned golf resort in Miami. In a televised address, Ramaphosa said the U.S. justification for its non-participation was rooted in baseless allegations of genocide and forced confiscation of white-owned land, claims he insisted have no factual groundings.
It is an honor and a privilege to welcome you as South Africa to this very first G20 Leaders Summit to be held on African soil.
Guinea-Bissau's military junta has announced a new government just days after seizing power in a coup. Meanwhile, the ousted President Umaro Sissoko Embalo has arrived in Brazzaville, the Republic of Congo. The coup unfolded last Wednesday, barely 24 hours before provisional election results were expected. In swift moves to consolidate control, the junta named 28 officials, including 5 military officers and 4 women, to steer the country, which has long struggled with instability and drug trafficking networks. Tension remains high in the capital, Bissau, where clashes broke out after the opposition reported that armed militia stormed their party headquarters.
Rigor e disciplina. Na uso de Kogi junta no tudo. Rigor e disciplina na uso de Kogi junta tudo, quer dizer, o uso de coisas públicas nas respectivos lugares. Segundo, combate à corrupção e a tráfico de droga. Tolerância zero. Esse deve ser da luta.
É com elevado sentido de responsabilidade que assumimos hoje a condição de membros do governo de transição da República da Guiné-Bissau.
British Member of Parliament Tulik Siddiq has been sentenced to a 2-year prison time in Bangladesh after being convicted in absentia on corruption charges tied to land allocations involving associates of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Siddiq, who resigned as a UK Treasury Minister earlier this year amid scrutiny over her family connections, denies any wrongdoing and is not expected to serve the sentence. Several members of Hasina's circle have faced similar prosecutions since her removal from office, many of them tried without being present. Legal experts in the UK have raised concerns about whether Siddiq had a fair chance at legal representation. She still faces additional cases in Bangladesh, but with no extradition treaty between the UK and the CAR, she remains outside of Bangladesh's legal reach. And that's all on the 6th edition for today, but here's a recap of the major stories. Northern governors and traditional rulers convene an emergency session in Kaduna to address escalating insecurity. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa dismisses U.S. allegations of targeted killings of white citizens, calls it blatant misinformation. We told you that British lawmaker Tulik Siddiq has been sentenced to 2 years in prison in Bangladesh after corruption conviction in absentia. You may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. I'm Neo Taigbe.